Hello guys, let us start our polity lecture number 9 and today we are going to discuss about directive principles of state policy. Now in our previous discussion, we have discussed about fundamental rights and we have seen that fundamental rights is when considered one of the most important elements for an individual's existence. And hence our Constituent Assembly provided Article 32 in our Constitution wherein an individual if finds his or her fundamental rights been violated, they can directly go to the Supreme Court and seek resolution over there. But on the contrary, the same is not true for the directive principles of state policy, which are more like a set of rules wherein the future governments or the legislatures will try to ensure that such policies are made which help provide a level playing field to all the individuals with respect to economy, security of health, nature of job, right? So all these kinds of noble principles were added in the directive principles of state policy chapter. At the same time, this set of rule or the part 4 of our Constitution is not justiciable in the court of law, which means it is not enforceable. Now, this was one of the major debating point in the Constituent Assembly, wherein many members of the Constituent Assembly spoke their mind on this issue. Many spoke in favor of it being justiciable. Many said that it's okay to keep it non-justiciable because we do not have the strength and wherewithal to bring about such huge and noble changes in our society, which is still grappling with a lot of medieval differences and discriminations. Now, all these things we'll cover in detail in our forthcoming slides, but before we proceed, I would like to stumble upon some of the questions which are pretty much pertaining to the chapters which we have done before. So, we'll start with this question number A, basically A, wherein it talks about the parliamentary democracy envisages. It talks about parliamentary democracy. Now, we look at the 3 points: representation of people, responsible government, accountability of council of ministers to the government. Now, point number 3, if we have a little bit of idea that council of ministers, they are actually government, how can they be accountable to the government? In return, they should be accountable to the parliament or the people. Now, if I am sure that point number 3 is wrong, we can directly come here and see which all options have point number 3. Now, I can see C and D both have point number 3 and I can straight away go and negate the prospect. Now, I have point A and point B. We all are very sure that parliamentary democracy, it talks about representation of people and it also talks about responsible government, and hence point 1 and 2 are correct. So, the answer is point number B. Now, we'll move on. Consider the following statements. Now, here are 2 statements. We'll have to see which club is more appropriate. Point number 1 says, territory of India includes states, union territories and acquired territories. Now, this is the definition of territory of India, which is fairly correct. As we all know that territory of India would have states, union territories, and territories, those could be acquired at any time in the future. Now, coming to the second option, which says that Union of India encompasses larger area than territory of India. Now, we all know, we have come across this concept in our first set of articles, first few articles like Article 1 to 4, which talks about union and its territories. We know that Union of India encompasses states and union territories. It does not have territories which could be acquired in the future as per the definition. And hence to say that Union of India encompasses larger area than territory of India is wrong. Hence, point number 2 is wrong. We can eliminate B and C, hence option is A. Now, let us move forward. Consider the following statements regarding fundamental rights. So, this is about our previous discussion on fundamental right that we have done. Some are not self-executory. Fundamental rights are protected against invasion by legislatures only. Now, let us completely read this question. Select the incorrect statements from the following codes. Now, we'll have to see which option is incorrect, and only that is going to be among these 4 objectives. Now, some are not self-executory. We all know that some of the fundamental rights are not self-executory, like Article 21A, which talks about right to education. We had to frame a law, we had to amend the constitution, insert Article 21A, and then 45 article of DPSP, which was again replaced with another set of guidelines. So there were changes made in our constitution. At the same time, 86th Constitutional Amendment Act came, which provided right to education. Now, it means that point number 1 is correct. Fundamental rights are protected against invasion by legislatures only. Now, so far, if we have understood our body politic and the way we run our democracy, the separation of power is a little bit blurred when we talk about executive and legislature here in India. Because here in India, legislatures help in framing law, but executive would also help in framing law and executing them at the same time. So executives are also fundamental and instrumental in amending any fundamental right if ever that happens. So fundamental rights are protected against invasion of legislatures only would be incorrect to say, or would be half truth, because it is protected against both executive and legislatures, but that broader principle of basic structure needs to be kept intact. So it is protected by the fundamental protected in the fundamental rights as per Article 32. So I could see that point number 2 is the only incorrect option to me. So I'll go and mark point B.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update from Civil's Daily.